Good morning, Selamat Sejahtera to everyone. Welcome to Asia Water 2020 Access to Water and Sanitation Virtual Conference. I am Celine and I'll be your MC for this webinar. Before we start, there are a few rules that we need to adhere. All microphone and video of attendees have been muted. If you have any question, do list them down at the Q&A box. We will have a Q&A session after all speakers have presented. If there's any internet disruption during the session, kindly be patient and try to sign in again. Now, without further ado, let's welcome our moderator, Associate Professor Dr. Nurhayati Abdullah from University Technology Malaysia. Dr. Nurhayati, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Access to Water and Sanitation session on virtual event of Asia Water. And we have come to the third day, I think, for the program today. And I'm very happy to be here with you, ladies and gentlemen. And we have three awesome speakers. And they are definitely familiar faces in the water industry, in the water sector, and I'm very happy to introduce each of them to you today. The first speaker we have IR Taufik, who holds a Bachelor of Engineering in Civil Engineering from University Technology Malaysia. He is a professional engineer registered with the Board of Engineers and currently is the head of planning and engineering in Indah Water Consortium Sendirian Berhad. Obviously, his main area of expertise is in infrastructure developments and sewerage wastewater management. And he has been with several consulting and contracting companies prior to joining Indah Water. He has been largely involved in the development of sewerage industry in Malaysia, particularly in areas concerning design, planning, standards development, quality control, and etc. in the water sector. And then we have Engineer Dr. Zaki Zainuddin, Water Quality and Modeling Specialist, joining us today, a renowned environmental specialist in the area of water quality assessment and modeling, having led and played various key roles in hundreds of environmental studies for both private and government sectors. So Dr. Zaki is professional engineers and chartered engineers with the Engineering Council UK and chartered environmentalist with the Society for the Environment Society in the UK. So he is very familiar in the newspaper, written numerous articles on environmental movements and actions, often a source of reference for various organizations on surface water quality management, expert panelists at the Department of Environment in Malaysia, and is advisor to many prominent organizations. And we have Engineer Dwi Handaya, Chairman, Indonesian Water Association. Engineer Handaya has more than 24 years of experience in wastewater treatment experience, traveling around Indonesia and several other countries, contributing in his experience in design, operations, problem solving, improvement of manufacturing, palm oil, petrochemicals in his degree in safety and the environment. And he has contributed largely with his expertise for detailed design and system management. Ladies and gentlemen, all these three speakers will be joining us in this session starting now. And then without further ado, let us welcome our first speaker, Engineer Taufik from Indah Water Consortium Sendirian Berhad. Engineer Taufik, the online platform is yours. Please welcome. Engineer Taufik, you are probably on mute. Please kindly unmute your system. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and good morning. Thank you, Dr. Nurhayati, for your kind introduction on my side. And good morning to my fellow speakers, Dr. Zaki, and also Engineer Dwi Handaya from Indonesia. And also good morning to all online participants, and thank you for joining us for today's. So today we will be discussing on two very important subjects, actually, on water and sanitation. I think this is very survival topic. So we know that without a clean water, safe source of water, then it's quite impossible for the communities to have adequate sanitation facilities and also to practice a good hygiene. And likewise also that without proper sanitation facilities, water source will be contaminated and polluted. This is two things that we cannot deny. So then, based on the article saying that with the improper access to water and sanitation, also it can create loss of productivity. It's about maybe 260 billion per year. Actually, this is from the research. And for today's, I will focus on the sanitation because of I'm working with the National Service Company. So hopefully that during this session I can share Malaysian experience on the journey to improve or improving the access to sanitation. Okay, can we go to the next slide? So next slide is I think it's quite common that we are talking about the sustainable development goal. We have 17. Then number 6 is related to the clean water and sanitation. So since we are now at very challenging time during the pandemic COVID-19, so have looked some statistics. So that I got it from the United Nations. So under the ensure availability and sustainable management of water, sanitation and for all. So this is the case is you can see that before COVID-19 and so the COVID-19 implications. So from the research before COVID-19, so means despite the United Nations has been recognized water and sanitation as a human right on 28 July 2010 actually. So there's still a lot of work to be done actually. So despite progress, so billions still lack water and sanitation services. For example, that 2.2 billion people lack safely managed drinking water and 4.2 billion people lack safely managed sanitation. So we're talking about the world population of 7.8 billion now actually. So then the ASEAN countries also contribute to 4.5 billion, which is about 60% of the world population. And for Malaysia, our population is about 33 million as of now. So the implication is that because of that during this pandemic time actually, so 3 billion people worldwide lack basic hand washing facilities at home actually, which we know that cleaning is very important. So during this pandemic to safeguard us from all the viruses. So then there's also findings saying that 2 in 5 healthcare facilities worldwide actually have no soap and water alcohol-based hand rub actually. This was in 2016. And the worst case is water scarcity could displace 700 million people by 2030. So this is a very big agenda for us to make sure that we can improve the access to water and sanitation. So the statistic also from WHO in 2017 is mentioned that most of the basically African countries, so they still have about 50% access to the basic sanitation, whereas in the ASEAN countries, so the access to basic sanitation is about 80 to 90%. I think this is quite a good percentage. You're talking about the global access to basic sanitation. Next slide, please. So now we are going back to the Malaysian scenario. We are talking about the 6 main objective on sewerage services in Malaysia. So just to share that we have 6 main objectives. The first one is to provision of basic sewerage facility for all areas, rural and urban area target. This is the main objective that we need to improve the accessibility to the sewerage facilities, and also gradually eradication of ineffective sewerage facilities by rationalization actually. So means the strategy is to minimize the conventional system. So then increasing connected sewerage facility. So we are going to move from on-site facilities like offlines, pit latrine and IST to the connected services or to the proper sewage treatment plant. And also we will increase the regionalized sewage system. So we are talking about the large sewage treatment plant. So which can cover a bigger area of service catchment. And number 5 is a comprehensive and sustainable management of sewage system. So this is we are talking not only for the sewage treatment, but we need to look into the whole cycle of the sewage management, inclusive of disposal of sludge actually to the proper landfill site. And number 6 is improved environment and public status. So this is can be done when we have a very good system. Then this can be included the resource recovery and also zero discharge. Means make sure that there's less impact to the environment, basically the water cost. Okay, next. So specific to the SG number 6, clean water and sanitation, which is to provide safe and affordable drinking water and provide sanitation facilities by 2030 actually. So in Malaysia we have I think a few targets actually. So the purpose is, of course, we want to eliminate the waterborne diseases related to the untreated sewage going to the water course. And the target actually we have 2 main target. First one is for the concession company basically. So for example, the Indah Water Consortium, at the end of the concession period, they need to have improve the connected services of the system. So just to share the top table the top table, we have the 2 category A and B. Basically, A is referring to the urban area and B is referring to the rural area actually. So the target is that we need to improve the connected services up to almost 85% and 30% and for the rural area and 30% for the rural area and 84% for the urban area actually. So talking about this is the target actually when the concession company was formed in Malaysia. And as of now, actually, the level of coverage based on 2019 data actually. So overall, so for the both area, urban and rural area, so the connected services is about 70% actually as of now. So this is one of the target that given by the government. And the second target is also now is under the Ministry of Environment and Water, or in short is KASA actually. They have environmental sustainability in Malaysia for 2020 and to 2030 actually. The target is purely on the urban area. So the target by ministry is by 2030, so the connected system will be about 95% actually. This is I think a good initiative was driven by the company to ensure that we have a very good access to the sanitation. And as of 2019, the overall target actually this inclusive of the domestic, industrial, commercial. So for access to water supply is about 95% in Malaysia, and for the property connection to public STP is about 80%. So this is to me that in line, almost in line with the target given by the government or by the ministry. Okay, next. So to ensure that we can achieve the target set, so it's very important that we need to look into the CapEx component, actually how we need to cater for the facilities, for the service facilities. So the first is we have to look into the strategy. So the first one, we're talking about the long-term service treatment plan, where we need to identify the catchment, the priority area, and also the population to serve actually. So this is in line also with the local structure plan normally managed by each of the local authorities in Malaysia. So from the strategy, so we have to look into the various strategy. The most important, there is 4 strategy. First is on the refurbishment and upgrading strategy, then regeneration and restoration strategy, the sludge strategy, and sewer rehab and upgrading strategy. This is cover the whole spectrum of the sewerage services. So then from the strategy, so there will be the program, they call it the capital work program, where the physical work will be done. So then this will involve, first one is a refurbishment and upgrading project. So means we whether the existing project we can extend the existing facility we can upgrade to cater for a bigger volume or bigger capacity. And we need to look into the land or centralized STP network project. So identify new land where we need to put the proper service network plant and proper service facility. Also the slush project and property connection project. This is the one that normally some of the area is served by the on-site treatment facilities like power flies, IST. This is eventually will be eliminated and will be connected to the proper service treatment plant system. So with this, then we can eliminate all the on-site means poor performance facilities or poor performance sanitation facilities. So then next slide. So this is to see the overview of the CAPEX investment in Malaysia. Basically, in Malaysia, the CAPEX means for sanitation and sewerage facility came from two main funding actually. So this is so-called developer and government. Developer normally they will only cater for their own development, but the government CAPEX will look into the very large STP and very strategic planning of putting up the sewerage facilities. So from this graph, this is the investment means in the sewerage infrastructure for the past 2 decades actually. So just started under the Malaysian Plan number 7. This is in the year of 1996 to 2000. So where WK as a national service company was formed in 1994. So from RMK7, Malaysian Plan number 7, to the Malaysian Plan number 11 actually. So we can see that in total, there is about 39 billion of investment has been given to the sewerage infrastructure. Mainly 70 million is under the government fund, which is looking about the large STP, and also 22.2 billion is under the developers fund, which is the facilities provided for their own development. Next. So this is to share that what the progress or evolution of the sewerage services in Malaysia. So starting from early days in Malaysia, you can see that day we only based on the very conventional system. So we have the bucket system. So then we can see that from 90s, this system has been improved tremendously actually. So we know that this is a three approach. The first one is normally we want to address the public health. So this is by providing the primitive and primary treatment. Then slowly we move to the address the river pollution. So where we have the partial and full secondary treatment system for the sewerage treatment plant. And eventually we need to address the environment and also the water cycle, where we have a very complicated and sophisticated sewage treatment system constructed in Malaysia to make sure that we have a very good access to the sanitation. So this is to show that means there has been a lot of effort has been done by the government to make sure people have proper access to the sanitation in Malaysia. So from this evolution or transformation also, we can see that by putting all the effort actually, there is reduced significantly the number of the diseases related to waterborne actually. So for example, that I think it's less than 1% now as compared to the early days, 50s, which is cholera, typhoid is very common to the communities. And also with the sophisticated sewage treatment system where we can have a good performance plant to treat all the parameters like ammonia, phosphorus. Also, we can reduce the number of polluted river actually. So then this is can see that the number of clean river increased. For example, in 1993 is about 28%. By 2015, it's already about double the number of clean river that we can have actually. So this shows that when we have a proper sanitation system, means indirectly you can control the river pollution. And also, because we're talking about investment also, we can see that the investment, as mentioned earlier, so almost 30 billion already invested to make sure that basic sanitation can be provided to the communities. So then the next slide. So this is will be my last slide basically, just to share that some of the famous sanitation code by the means someone that really the leader. For example, that the first one is by the Kofi Annan is saying that we shall not defeat any of the infection diseases that plague the European world until we have also won the battle for safe drinking water, sanitation, and basic healthcare. So this is something that come out from the Kofi Annan. And Mahatma Gandhi, he did mention that sanitation is more important than independent. So you can see that how important is the sanitation actually. So because of the, we can see that once you have a good sanitation, it will change the culture of the communities. Then another one, Matt Damon, actually you will never solve poverty without solving water and sanitation. So this is a few quote from the I think icon in this in the world to say that there is very important for us to address the basic access or the access to the water and sanitation. So because of with the good access to the water and sanitation, then we can solve the, I think the main problem is pollution, means which is related to the water source, which is a very need by all the people actually, because we know that without water, so definitely the life will be miserable and we are prone to be infected by the all sort of diseases. So I think that is all from me. So then thank you very much. So I pass the session to Dr. Nohayati. Thank you very much.
Thank you, IR Taufik, for a very interesting insights on what IWK is doing in line with the government vision and targets for 2030, which is also in agreement with SDG 6. This rhymes with clean water and sanitation objectives that we are all looking at. And obviously, billions of people are lacking access to safe water and sanitation services. Thank you, IR Taufik. And ladies and gentlemen, let us move on to the next speaker, Dr. Zaki. And may I remind you, those who are attending this session, to please kindly jot down your questions in the chat box or in the question box for the speakers, because we are having the Q&A session at the end of the event today. Thank you. And without further ado, Dr. Zaki, the platform is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Yati. Assalamualaikum. Good morning, everybody. Thanks to the organizers for inviting me here this morning to share a bit of my thoughts. I'll be talking about, if you're familiar with what I've spoken about in the past, I'll be talking about water quality issues in the country. Typically, my past presentations have been very technically heavy, talking on serious issues of rivers pollution and whatnot. So I thought this time around, this morning, I take a slightly different approach, a more lighthearted approach pertaining to river issues in the country, and perhaps showing another side of things regarding the water quality of rivers in the country. So can we move on to the next slide, please? So next slide. Yeah. Okay, before we begin, I believe we may have an international audience here this morning. Some terms. So in my presentation, SG is an acronym for sungai in the Malay language. Translates to river or outstream. So if you see SG Selangor, Sungai Selangor in my slide, roughly in English, that translates to Selangor River, for example. Now, next slide, please. Of late, we've heard of many river pollution incidences in Malaysia that have captured the public's imagination. Next slide, please. That has caused inconveniences. Recently, there was this incident of a pollution incident from illegal dumping in the Selangor River Basin that led to water supply disruptions to millions of account in the Klang Valley region, essentially the economic epicenter. Next slide, please. And these kind of disruptions have led to essentially the shutdown of few treatment plants. It involves mainly odor pollution. So it's been, and these incidences have been next slide please, have been happening in the past few months alone, in the past 2 or 3 months. Next slide please. This was the incident in, I believe, in Langat River Basin and Selangor River Basin. This is in Semenyih. You have issues of transboundary pollution, where chemicals are dumped, even to sewage treatment plants, which eventually lead to the river. Next slide, please. Chemicals in containers such as this. So this is the most recent incident, where you have the authorities investigating. Next slide, please. So this is only in Selangor, where these chemicals are kept in containers. So, so this has led to treatment plant shutdown. This is only in the Klang Valley region. And of late, these incidences not only are inherent to the Klang Valley region, but also happen in other parts of the country as well. Next slide, please. If you remember, there was this, you don't have to play the video. If you remember, last year, there was the Sungai Kim Kim incident, illegal dumping incident that led to various residents in the Pasir Gudang area being hospitalized because of the odor that was emitted. So that garnered a lot of attention for Kim Kim. And if you remember, just a few days ago, there was sort of a resurgence in the issue, where there was reported similar odor incidences in Kim Kim as well. But what many people don't know is actually the rivers in Pasir Gudang, even before Kim Kim was already, many of the rivers there already polluted. For example, like in this case, Prawn River, you can see the color of the river is gray in colors. It's funny, this river on certain days is gray, on other days it's blue. Even the color of the river changes depending on the type of effluent that's released in the river. Next slide, please. This is Prawn River, and then you have Bulow River. This is Bulow River, not Bulow River in KL, but Bulow River, Sungai Bulow in Johor Bahru. So this was at one time in 2017 or 2018 the second most polluted river in the country. The sad thing about this river is the upstream reaches, as you can see, or the picture on the left, is relatively clean. It's not too bad. Whereas once you move downstream, the water quality turns black and it emits a very foul odor. The distance from the upstream, the picture on the left, to the downstream, the picture on the right, is less than 5 kilometers. Less than 5 kilometers. So you have such a drastic change in water quality. Next slide, please. So this is inherent to other rivers in Pasir Gudang. Sungai Tukang Batu, this was at one time the most polluted river in the country. Next slide, please. Yeah, Sungai Lato, also in Pasir Gudang. You can look at the color of the river, it's black. Next slide, please. This is Kim Kim itself. Kim Kim is interesting. You look at the picture on the left, the upstream segment of Kim Kim is actually clean. It's actually clean. But once you go downstream, the water turns black. Once all the discharges start to go into the river, the water becomes black. Next slide, please. This is a tributary of Kim Kim, Sungai Selangka. You look at the color, or the odor here is very, very foul, very strong odor. Next slide, please. You can see the color, even the color of the river on Selangka is gray, is grayish, grayish in color. DO level here, oxygen level, anoxic. DO almost zero, almost zero. Next slide, please. And then you have this Pajam River in Negeri Sembilan. You look at the foaming that's occurring on the surface of the river. You have foaming on the river. That's foaming that's happened, but this is very abnormal, very abnormal level of foamings. Even on certain days when I went there and I interviewed the villagers, they told me on certain days when the foam is blown by the wind, even the trees are covered with foam. So that's like a very abnormal level. Next slide, please. Then, yeah, you can play this video, I think. This is discharge to Sungai Skudai. You look at the discharge, black color discharge going into Sungai Skudai River. So this causes river pollution in Johor Bahru. Yeah, next slide, please. And we all know there was a Sungai Danga incident and all that. Can we move on? Next. Yeah. Next. Yeah, in Sungai Selangor, these are garbage collected. Can you go to the previous slide? This is garbage collected on Sungai Selangor itself. You can see this amount of garbage in Sungai Selangor, this amount of garbage was collected within 1 hour. Within 1 hour. We were there, we collected the garbage in September. This amount of garbage collected within 1 hour. 1 hour. So it's a lot of garbage. And among the things that we found in Selangor River, next slide, please. You can find aerosols. Next slide. You can find this kind of drugs and medication on Selangor River. So these are some substances that you find in what I call this in rivers in Malaysia. And the next slide would be also very funny. If you zoom in, this is Jinjang River in KL. If you look closely, if you notice this object here, this is actually the head, the kepala, the head of a cow. The head of a cow is thrown into the drain, and the drain is up to Jinjang River. So everything is disposed of in our river. So there's a lot of pollution problems. Next. And then you have garbage. This is all garbage in Klang Valley. So anyway, when it comes to next, according to the EQR, one of the main contributors of river pollution is, in terms of BOD and ammonia, is inadequately treated sewage effluent or effluent from agro-based industries. So this is based on EQR 2017. So next slide, please. Yeah, next slide. So when it comes to this kind of river pollution incidences, as I mentioned earlier, I've commented at length on the many reasons behind this kind of river pollution incidents, but I've talked about them so much that I don't want to harp on them a lot. But I think based on the slides that I've shared with you, I think more or less if you get the picture, how come some of you have been experienced it going through the water disruption. But yeah, but this morning I also want to show another side of things. Next slide. So there is another side of things. Next slide. This is our national water quality standards from Malaysia. I think those of you who are in the water industry will be familiar with these standards. So these standards are being revised as of the moment. So if you're familiar with standards, the class 1 water quality is supposed to be the best water quality. As you ascend, the water quality deteriorates. Class 5 being the worst water quality. Now, with the many river pollution incidences transpiring in the country. I've attended several meetings with many stakeholders, authorities in the water sector. These people who are involved have started to question, for all the many pollution incidences, do we still have clean rivers in the country left or not? Because it's such a, a depressing notion to know that all this river pollution incidences is happening all over the country, and even disruption in the especially regarding illegal dumping incidences and whatnot. So I was even at one point that the authorities even started to ask, do we still have any clean rivers left? Do we have any class 1 rivers left? Actually, the answer to that question is yes. So that's what I want to share with you this morning. Actually, we still have class 1 rivers, and I hope by sharing some of these class 1 rivers, and you can see the potential of our rivers in the country if provided that we can get pollution under control. Next slide. Let me just show you. This is Sungai Dungun in Terengganu. You look at the water quality in Sungai Dungun. The water quality is clear. Just to get here, it takes you about 4 hours. Of course, it's in the upstream region now, but the water quality is clear. Next slide, please. Can you play the video? You look at the water quality of the river. It's beautiful. The water quality of the river is so nice and it's so serene. Yeah? So this is basically class 1 water quality. Next slide. Even Sungai Kuantan, for that matter, water quality is clear, but the water quality is very nice, and it's class 1 water quality. But you can only find this kind of water quality in the upstream areas. And when you have this kind of water quality, what comes with it is very precious habitation of certain aquatic species. For example, next slide. We have the next slide. Yeah, we have the kela. To those of you who are into fishing, you know kela. Kela, or the in Peninsular Malaysia is called the kela. In Sarawak, it's referred to as empurau. In Sabah, it's referred to as pelian or belian, or the Malayan mashil, Tortombridis. Now, this is a very sensitive aquatic species that need the very most pristine of water quality to survive. So, and we still have pockets of river systems in the country where you can still find kela. For example, next slide, please. This is Chiling River. This is upstream of Sungai Selangor. Sungai Selangor, where the pictures I showed you earlier, where you collected all the garbage. The upstream region, you can still find class 1 water quality, and you look at the amount of kela that's swimming around. I'll just show you in the next video. Next slide, please. Play the video. Look at that. This was a program with an NGO that I did. A lot of kela swimming around in the upstream region of Chiling River. So this is basically class 1 water quality. And this kela, next. This kela, look at that. Look at the size of that kela. This kela is not cheap. It's not cheap. One fish goes, the pricing for one fish goes beyond easily 1,000 ringgit. Easily, one fish, easily 1,000 ringgit. So if you can have very good water quality and you can find this kind of fish species, they are very precious to us actually, especially this kind of Malaysian masi is only mostly indigenous to this region and to our country, to this country. And then besides that also, you also have, next slide please, you also have this. This is the giant freshwater prawn. A lot of people make the misidentification. They think this is a lobster. This is not a lobster. This is the giant freshwater prawn. They call it udang galah. Udang galah. And this species of giant freshwater prawn is the largest, I say it again, the largest species of freshwater prawn in the world. And you can only find this in Malaysia, in this region. So in order for this kind of prawn to survive, it needs good water quality. I say that again. This is the largest prawn species, freshwater prawn species in the world. And yet we don't treasure it, and we make our rivers more and more polluted. Next slide. You can see there's a lot of prawns here. See, and you can catch this, and you can find in certain areas where the water quality is still good. You can find this kind of prawn species, class 1, class 2 water quality. Okay, next slide. And then I also want to make a special mention about the rivers of Sabah and Sarawak. I also do my studies there in Sabah and Sarawak. My friends there always like to joke. The rivers in Sabah and Sarawak are 10 times, the average river, 10 times bigger than the rivers in Peninsular Malaysia, which is true, And you have this kind of lot of ecotourism activities going on in the Kinabatangan River, where you can see a lot of wildlife. This is all precious, very precious natural commodity to us. And next slide, please. And in Sabah and Sarawak, a lot of people don't know the way they, many people there, some the locals there, so in certain regions, they live in harmony with their ecosystem through Tagal or Tagang practice in Sarawak. Have you heard of this before? I think maybe some of you have never heard of it. Tagal or Tagang in Sarawak basically means that it's natural fish breeding in a section of the river. That means in that particular river segment, it's not a pond, but in the river itself, where you are not allowed to fish. You're not allowed to fish until the fish reach certain level of maturity. Next slide. So because of this, you have this kind of preservation. You see, this is in Sarawak, in Sabah, in Sabah. So you can see you have this kind of preservation, and they even erect signages where you are not allowed to do any fishing activities. So this is inherent over there. Many of the local communities participate in this kind of Tagal and Tagang activities over there. And just to show you a special mention, next slide. You play this video. This is a beautiful river, Bulow River in Sarawak. It took me 3 days to get here, deep in the jungle. There's a lot of very nice pool river effect, essentially where certain portion of the river is deep and then it becomes shallow, deep and shallow. So this is the deep portion of the river. And as I go around the bend, as you can see in my boat, as I go around the bend, you see a sort of riffling effect. So this is actually very nice. You see, look, splashing impact in the upper regions of Bulow River. So this is essentially class 1 water quality. So and then the rivers, when the river becomes shallow, you have this riffling effect, and then it becomes deep again. So all the way through my journey, I went through 7 of these kind of pool riffle effects, rapids, so-called. So this is very nice for whitewater rafting, I guess they call it, whitewater rafting. So the point is this. Next slide. The point is this. We still have beautiful rivers in Malaysia. I know there have been a lot of what I call this, sad river pollution news has been going on in the past few months, but we still have clean rivers in Malaysia. The question is this: how long will these rivers stay clean? That's the question. How long will it continue to be clean? Because with clean river, as you can see, you have diverse aquatic life. You have no problems in terms of water supply. You can even do ecotourism. You can do a lot of things. But the question is, how long will these rivers continue to be clean? Because in my experience in this area, a lot of people get very excited when they see a polluted river. And when they see a polluted river, they will say, okay, what can we do to clean up the river? Yeah, sure, you can do river cleanup. There's nothing wrong with that. But to me, what's wiser and what is smarter is how do you ensure that the current polluted rivers, the current clean rivers, the rivers which are currently clean, don't become polluted 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road? That's the bigger question. Because trust you me, there will always be new sources of pollution going into the river. I can even name you a few catchments now that's potentially undergoing rapid development in the upstream areas that will continue to become polluted in the not too distant future. Now, if you want to know which rivers, you can ask me. You PM to P. All right. Okay. So that's it for me. Thank you very much. I pass it back to the MC.
Thank you, Dr. Zaki. It's very disheartening to see those photos of rivers with very bad cosmetics, considering the earlier speaker, IR Taufik, mentioned Audrey Hepburn. She said water is life and clean water means health. And then I'm beginning to see the flow in the session when Dr. Zaki is showing us pictures of rivers with very, very bad cosmetics due to our wrongdoings, due to our own wrongdoings. And what have we been doing to the environment? What have we been doing to cause such pollution in our rivers? Thank you, Dr. Zaki, and we'll come back to you with probably some questions on rivers in Malaysia. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, let us invite IR Dwi Handaya, Chairman, Indonesian Water Association, to deliver his presentation. IR Dwi Handaya, the platform is yours. Please welcome.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for Professor Nur Hayati, Mr. Taufik, Mr. Yaki. I'm Dwi Handaya from Jakarta, Indonesia, Indonesian Water Association. We will share our knowledge here and record regarding part of water access and also for sanitation. Next, please. We are Indonesian Water Association that's our member from professional and from industry and also from university. Next, please. And actually, that the word that we have 17 sustainable development goals, that number 6 regarding clean water and sanitation, and also number 14 about the life below water. Next, please. And this is actually our record in 2017 that in Indonesia, drinking water access in Indonesia still 72%. Actually, in Indonesia, if we call it drinking water, actually fresh water ready to process become drinking water, actually like this. Next, please. And then there are another information that 2018 from 72 already growing up to 82%, some target until 87%. And about the 20% of fresh water access through pipeline. So 80% using independently. Next, please. And Indonesian government also have a target up to 2024. The access water, the target become 100%. Yeah, but we don't know. We know that this year's about the pandemic COVID, water business slowly down, even not minus, but after 3 months already going up again. Next, please. And here access water in Indonesia as you know that Java Island, almost 60% of population in Indonesia in Java Island. But the water resources in Indonesia, the biggest island like say Sumatra, Kalimantan, Papua, Sulawesi, this is the 4 islands, the biggest in Indonesia that have much water resources in Indonesia. Next, please. And then, as we know that the Java Island, the area only 6% from total in Indonesia area, but the population in Java Island is 56% of total population in Indonesia. So actually, if let's say river polluted, mostly polluted in Java Island. Next, please. We got information also that the update last year that freshwater achievement from government reported still 77%. That means there are 20% remain become 200% until 2024. Next, please. And this is the 5 province, the lowest water access in Indonesia. Bengkulu and Lampung province, this is in Sumatra Island, and Papua and Kalimantan, Borneo, and Sulawesi Island. Next, please. And this is about the water, and then about the sanitation. Next, please. Several research institutions in Indonesia do the research that in 2014, 2015, and 2016, so many river in Indonesia heavy polluted in Indonesia. So due to the last 3 years, so many river in Indonesia heavy polluted, so government make new tight regulation now. Next, please. This is another research that in 2013 that researchers take 400 sampling all river in Indonesia, and 75% heavy polluted. So that's why government make new regulation, make new tight regulation about the domestic wastewater. And another record that 54% that river polluted because domestic wastewater. Livestock, agriculture, industrial, hotel, hospital, solid waste, small scale industry, 46%. So most polluted river in Indonesia also about regarding domestic wastewater more than 50%. Next, please. And this is the sample in several river in Indonesia. BOD more than 10 ppm, and E. coli, coliform also high, and then some industrial, also metal, also less of oxygen. Next, please. This is also another record that 70% of river in Indonesia heavy polluted by mostly domestic wastewater. Next, please. And also in Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia, there are 13 river through Jakarta area, and 8 from 13 river heavy polluted by domestic wastewater. Next, please. And then this is also record that more than 70% of polluted wastewater in the river come from domestic, and less from commercial and industrial wastewater. Next, please. And this is new regulation from Indonesian government, Environment Ministry number 68 year 2016, that this is domestic wastewater to all institutions. Before, the domestic wastewater regulation is only for hospital, hotel. Are you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Please proceed. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, the domestic wastewater regulation before actually only for like high-rise building, for hotel, for a hospital like this. So before, like factory, if factory have a wastewater treatment, mostly only treated for industrial wastewater treatment. Most of factory not treated domestic wastewater. So with its new regulation, all institution including housing complex, they should install STP, sewage treatment plant. Even they install for independent STP or they connected to centralized STP. Next, please. This is current condition, maybe 5 years condition that Indonesia only have 12 cities that they have centralized STP. This is different with industrial complex. This is special for domestic wastewater. And then with this new regulation, 2016, several cities starting to make centralized STP, like Jakarta, like Palembang, like Makassar. They prepare the centralized STP normally using PPP, project partnership program. Maybe some international company able to invest something like this. Next, please. So actually, this is the urban population. Let's say 110 million. There are independent STP or connected to centralized STP. Next, please. And this is Jakarta government already released the new regulation 2016 that Jakarta under implementation with new centralized STP. There are 15 locations in Jakarta only, because Jakarta is more than 60% of population Indonesia. In Java Island and smaller in Jakarta area. So Jakarta only government make 15 location centralized STP, and no already one running and another under DED, detail engineering drawing. Next, please. And this is 15 location. 15 location that there are existing and there are another under design engineering detail engineering drawing that on progress. Next, please. We have also the concept reuse and recycle. As mean if reuse, next please. If actually in Indonesia have we call it regulation proper. Proper means several industry under tight control by government, and some industry they should do reuse and recycle. Reuse mean if effluent wastewater will be used for any activity, but remind wastewater back to STP or back to wastewater treatment. We call it reuse. And if recycle, let's say for gardening, let's say for fire hydrant, something like this, recycle concept will more tight regulation. Next, please. This is like, let's say for agriculture or gardening. So the wastewater that they will do recycling for agriculture, for gardening, says they should meet the domestic regulation. They also meet the water quality for gardening. There are some regulation about the domestic wastewater regulation or some water quality for gardening. Next, please. There are another concept also for water recycle for fishery. Next, please. If industrial want to do the recycle using recycling for fishery, so they should meet the domestic wastewater regulation. They also should meet the fishery water standard. Next, please. And then this is for fishery. Next, please. There are also concept for general effluent recycle. Let's say become fresh water. So the domestic wastewater should meet the regulation for domestic wastewater, and they should also meet the raw water for clean water, fresh water. Next, please. We have several projects. Actually, with the Dr. Yaki, we have also issue regarding river and lake in Indonesia. Actually, this is our project in Medan, actually near Kuala Lumpur, in top of Sumatra Island. We are using biocleaner bacteria that we handle domestic wastewater almost 500 meter cubic per day, and biocleaner is pellet bacteria. There are so clean reserve, so the effluent is 100% reuse for cooling tower. This is our project in about effluent reuse. Next, please. There are also about the Lion Air. Actually, we have project in Lion Air, and there are 100% recycle become fresh water, because we using the pellet bacteria. The result is so good. POD from 600 ppm come to 2 ppm only. So 2 ppm we can easily to do the recycle wastewater. Next, please. In Indonesia, actually, also have several regulation like domestic wastewater regulation, industrial wastewater regulation, oil and gas, thermal wastewater, like from power plant, also from industrial complex. Next, please. Indonesia have a new regulation. We call it sparring online monitoring. There are 12 industry that they should install sparring online monitoring. The flow meter, pH, COD, and TSS should install online in outlet wastewater and connected to government server. So government will easy to check this is correct or not correct. So 12 industry, next please. The 12 industry should prepare this regulation will implement it in next year into 2021. There are 12 industry like rayon, like pulp and paper, petrochemical, oleochemical, palm oil, like palm oil in Indonesia actually owned by Malaysia people, so many. So should prepare that palm oil should install online monitoring. So flow meter, pH, COD, and TSS should install in outlet and connected to Environment Ministry government server. Next, please. This is the concept of online monitoring. There are 4 parameters should connected, install online, and connected to government server. Next, please. This is regarding the our pandemic condition that even many industrial goes down. Actually, water in Indonesia still slow down, but the growing still there. Even before pandemic, the water sector business growing more than 6% or sometimes 8% per year. Now water sector growing still in 4 until 5% in first quarter 2020. Next, please. Okay, this is our information, and I'm also millennial. I also make a YouTube YouTube channel Dwi Handaya. You can see of my project in YouTube. Thank you. Please, you're back to Dr. Indayati.
Thank you very much, IR Dwi Handaya, for a very nice presentation and giving us some insights on Indonesia's water climate, from areas deprived of clean water to initiatives that has been done by the government, including recycling and reuse of effluent water. And may I invite all panelists to please join me on the Q&A session, because we already have some questions coming up for all of the speakers. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. And up to now, we have one question, I think, for each of the speakers. Let me begin with IR Taufik from Indah Water. The questions for you is, many of our households with IST are not dislodging or emptying their septic tanks. So is there any plan to connect them to the centralized system?
Thank you, Dr. Nati, for the question actually. So then I think just to give on the overview of the IST situation in Malaysia, basically. So after the establishment of VCR Act, actually, the Water Service Industry Act in 2006, actually. So the dislodging is become the responsibility of the house owner, actually. So it's no longer under the purview of Water, because of previously before the VISHA, so every 2 years Water we arrange for the scheduled study. So then now after the VISHA, then it become liberalization, means it's open to few more contractor, they can participate in the study activities, but the house owner is responsible to make sure that their septic tank is properly maintained. So then means they have to have their own initiative to make sure that they follow the discharging schedule of 1 every 2 years. But for the long term, of course, one of the areas that we need to look is to improve the basic sanitation, as I mentioned earlier, is to eliminate all the on-site treatment facilities like the conventional method of pour flush or septic tank. So, but the thing is sometimes, so it's a bit hard for us to go to that areas because it was normally IST we're referring to very old development. But nevertheless, but slowly under the program, there is a program by the government to improve the connection, basically to connect the IST premises to the centralized service system when there is a project coming within the development. That's my answer, Dr. Nayati.
Thank you, IR Taufik. I have another question for now, moving on to Dr. Zaki, probably. So you give a very good presentation and overview on rivers in Malaysia, the bad side and then the good side of those rivers. It is good that we hear from you, a strong proponent in river remediation. Is there an integrated effort by the relevant authorities, and who is actually the relevant authority in these regards?
Okay, thank you, Dr. D. There is an aspiration for an integrated effort. The aspiration is there, but whether you achieve that aspiration or not, I'm not too sure. That's another matter. Now, if you ask for my opinion, who is the person that's supposed to be in charge of such an integrated effort? I have to talk on the premise of the current structure of water resource management in the country. I'm not going to talk in terms of the framework, legislation, and whatnot. I cannot. Of course, if you change the constitution, then the structure will be different. Now, the federal constitution in Malaysia clearly states that water as a resource is a state purview under the state government. So meaning the state government bears the authority for water resource management, not services. Services is a different thing. I'm talking about water resource management. So that's still under the state government. So if you ask me who should be the coordinating agency based on the current structure, then to me it's a no-brainer. It's going to be the state government as to be the coordinating authority for this, unless the constitution change lah. If you change the constitution, then it becomes, if we put federal powers there, then maybe the structure will change. But based on the current structure of how it works, it has to be, if you ask me, it has to be coordinated by the state level agency, state government specifically.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zaki. Actually, I want to contribute to that question, Dr. Zaki, for you, because when we see those pictures of rivers, and when you show us that we have a dead cow's head in the river, so that has got something to do with education and awareness creation. Any comment?
Sure, definitely. Me, definitely. The way I look at it is like this. At the end of the day, the bus stops at how you empower the society with awareness, education, and knowledge. To me, if you ask me, we are we are slowly progressing there. I mean, if you take, for example, very easily, if you look back in the, sorry to say, back in the 90s, maybe back in the 80s, awareness was maybe not so much. At least now, with more people being trained in environmental issues, and maybe because of the issues also coming up, people like you, Dr. Yati, who's being trained and you teach your students, the awareness starts to come up. There is now, these issues are being put in the limelight. So slowly you see I think the awareness issue is gaining more ground. So I would say the future lies the fate of water quality lies in future generations. The question now is, what we can do now is we have to make sure that their work, the future generation, doesn't become too difficult. That's what we need to do now. That's why I mentioned just now the prevention part. We have to make sure that we don't make it too difficult for them. We need to start prevention from now. So that's my view. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zaki. I have one or two questions probably for Dwi Handaya.
Okay.
Know that Jakarta city use groundwater as raw water resources for drinking water. What is the common problem using groundwater in a big city such as Jakarta? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Actually, like this. I remember about 5 years ago that government Jakarta already make a very high tax for groundwater. So only in Jakarta, the highest tax for groundwater more than almost $2 to US dollar, 1.5 or 1.6 US dollar per meter cube. This is only for tax. Why the government make so high tax for groundwater? So that's why, because Jakarta area have a condition that maybe slowly down like this. So that's why Jakarta government also make a new regulation that all building in Jakarta should do the water reuse and recycle, and then the water supply, fresh water supply also making growing up to supply the Jakarta people. And then actually people try to avoid groundwater with the government make a new very high tax. You just thinking that only tax is almost $2 per meter cube, but mostly this is for government, for for factory, for building like this. If community take underground water, still okay. There are no tax, is only for surface water. This only for deep well water. This is the condition. Actually, already anticipated by government with the very high tax for groundwater and the new regulation for water reuse and recycle in special province Jakarta, and also the building should prepare like rainwater catchment. So if there are rainwater come to building, every building should install like pond for rainwater catching and become reuse or recycle. This is already by regulation, Jakarta regulation.
Okay, it's good to hear that the regulation also include rainwater harvesting in Jakarta.
Yeah.
And that
so actually we have project on rainwater harvesting in special Jakarta. Outside Jakarta, still not pushed yet by government.
Okay. Thank you, Ara. And there's another question here. How does the current COVID-19 pandemic affect resources for water sanitation, like in provinces like Bandung, Jogja? What do you do about it?
Again, that we have still bad record about the pandemic. Let's say 3,000, 4,000 cases per day. But again, we are in water sector business. In March, let's say slow down for 3 months, but after 3 months for water sector already going up. As I informed you before that the water business in Indonesia before COVID about the 6% until 8% per year growing, but now about the 4-5%. Slowly down, but not minus. So water sector business is still there. So actually, we have several projects in Indonesia area. So almost every month I should rapid test, and every 2 or 3 months I should take a swab test, because come to customer should prepare rapid test. In some company should prepare swab test.
Right.
So my nose already several time to take swab because there are standard to come to several company for water business in here.
Thank you, Dwi Handaya. I think you are breaking up a bit at the end
Yeah,
of
that's
the.
like this. Like Bandung, actually, there are new regulation for river cleaning by government. New
Right.
regulation Bandung area. So for river cleaning, support by Army, Indonesian Army. If there are some
Dwi Handaya, I think you are breaking up. We're losing you, but I can hear you saying there are some tests, and then all the workers are required to undergo several times of COVID testing, especially those working in the water sector in Indonesia, providing safe water for everyone there.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think you were losing him. We move to the next one. We have a couple more minutes. I have one more question for Indah Water, IR Taufik. IWK only manage the connected sewerage system. What about the household wastewater from cooking, cleaning activities, the daily activities?
Okay, thank you. Actually, so there is a lot of term. Basically, we call it the black water, grey water. So basically, by right for the housing development, those coming from the domestic activities like from the bathroom activity, from the kitchen activities, is supposed to go through the sewerage system actually. So then it will must be connected to the sewage treatment plant for treatment. So, but we know that some of the areas that people tend to extend their house actually. So that's why then sometimes that they try to bypass from the sink direct to the to the drainage system, which eventually will go to rivers, and that will be one of the pollution to the river, one of river pollution sources actually. So by right, the household activities must be connected to the wastewater treatment plant or sewage treatment plant.
Thank you, IR Taufik. And I think one more, final question for IR Zaki here, because it's very interesting. What are the approaches taken to rehabilitate polluted river in terms of technical and policy? I know you mentioned the standards and whatnot. Just to relate between the two, technical and policy.
Okay. Actually, there is thank you, Dr. I see there's a kaleidoscope of strategies. There's so many. I don't think I have time to elaborate through every single one of them. But I guess the first thing that you have to do before you talk about rehabilitation is that, and I keep saying this, you have to set a target first. And it's not just for rehabilitation, but also for preservation. That's also very important. A lot of people only set target for rehabilitation. Preservation, you don't set target. I think that's also a big mistake. You have to say, for example, if the river right now, as I say, right now the river is class 3, you have to make sure it's still class 3 5 years down the road. River class 2, you have to make sure class 2 down the road. That is preservation target. But for rehabilitation, the first thing you have to do, you have to set a target. Like ROL, for example, they set the target of class 2B. So once you set the target of class 2B, then you can identify all the measures for rehabilitation. I think Engineer Taufik will tell you one of the main components for River of Life is the rationalization of the sewage sources in ROL, the centralization, the huge STPs that's coming up there. So you have to deal with, because the sewage is one of the main sources. So you have to control sewage loading, because sewage is the main contributing factor over there. And even the technology that's being used for ROL is very advanced, because they need to reduce the loading, because the sewage loading is very large over there. You need to reduce the sewage loading to a very low level. It's even going beyond the conventional standards, beyond the standard A, the conventional standards. So you have to use MBR by treatment system over there. Very, what I call this. So that means you control sewage. Sewage is one of the strategies. So you control the what I call this by doing what I call this advanced treatment. And then at the same time also you have to control sources of industrial pollution. How do you control industrial pollution sources? Do you and we've been talking about this, assigning load targets. Each industry do load designations in terms of the discharges that they can go in, even in terms of water reclamation and recycling, as Engineer Taufik mentioned just now, for the industries as well for sewage. But there is one thing that I want to say here. Actually, as I said, there's so many. I don't have time to go through every single one of them. But one of the things that we have not done yet in the country, and I've mentioned this in the past, we have not done centralized industrial wastewater treatment. I think that's something we need to start looking into, because the sewage authorities are already doing central. Okay, very good. Alhamdulillah, very good. And we're very thankful to IWK for their efforts. What we are not doing now is not doing centralized industrial effluent treatment system. So I think that needs to be done. And there are many models behind it. Either you connect to the sewage line with a pre-treatment. We don't want to inconvenience IWK with a pre-treatment, and then we connect to the sewage line, or we can have a dedicated facility, a dedicated centralized industrial facility. Ada banyak strategi. So many strategies we can talk about. So anyway, so I mean, yeah, I think that we can elaborate further on this rehabilitation topic for another time. So many, so many aspects.
But
about it.
Yeah, but Dr. Zaki, I have very hot question coming here on my chat.
No problem.
What is
no
your
problem.
what is your opinion on some of the illegal discharges which is blamed to Inda Water, which polluted the river? What's your opinion? I mean, maybe Taufik can also chip in if you have any opinion on this.
Okay, that's why we have to be very clear about pollution and stuff. Essentially, to be very clear what we mean by pollution, you know. The example that I showed about Kim earlier is a very good example. When Kim happened, a lot of people started talking, oh, this is a river pollution incident that's causing Kim River to be polluted. Actually, I've been in Kim for 17 years already. I was there 17 years ago, and I can leave 17 years ago. Kim was already polluted. What happened in Kim is an illegal dumping incident. I say that again. It's a dumping incident that incurred river pollution. But Kim itself, prior to that, was already polluted. So that has to be very clear. Why? Because the way you tackle it, the strategy of tackling it depends on how you define it. So if you're talking about illegal dumping, then obviously the strategy to mitigate illegal dumping is to do better enforcement, is to do better catchment planning, better to risk management within the catchment. That is on the dumping side. So that's one set of strategies. But if you talk about that, so why is Kim still polluted then? The question just now, Engineer Taufik will tell you. IWK is not in, for the longest time, was not in Johor. Was not in Johor Bahru, and not in Pasir Gudang, Engineer Taufik. Only earlier this year, IWK is coming to Pasir Gudang. The handover. Ada announcement for the handover.
So maybe you have some thoughts on this, Engineer Taufik?
Yeah. So the sewage, what I'm trying to say, the sewage is in over there. One of the main issues of Kim pollution at that time was sewage was not managed. IWK is not there, isn't it? You guys are not there. So hopefully, inshallah, when IWK comes in, it'll be better. Inshallah, Engineer Taufik.
So to add to Dr. Zaki, I think is back to the catchment. Actually, we need to very familiar what we have in the catchment. So because of, as mentioned, that we have domestic waste, we have industrial waste, we have commercial waste. That for IWK, we only have the authority to control what we have in our boundary only. So what coming to our plant is beyond our control. So that's why the integrated effort must be there. Actually, we must work together with the local authority, we work together with NGO, then we work together with public. So inshallah, I think this sort of all the legal discharge can be prevented.
Thank you, Engineer Taufik. I have one last question for IR Dwi Handaya. Happy to see you back on the platform.
Okay.
Somebody is interested on how you bring down the BOD from 600 to 2 milligram per liter. IR Dwi
Okay.
Handaya.
My voice is, are you hear my voice? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you and see.
Thank you. Okay. Again, the design of wastewater or STP is very unique. We have experience in Saudi Arabia. Actually, 10% of our record in international project. As you know, we are in Indonesia, like domestic wastewater BOD regulation is 30%. So it is different in the Middle East. Why in Middle East so low? In Middle East, BOD is 10 or 12 ppm, so low compared than Indonesia. Indonesia actually, if we want to do effluent recycle from BOD 30% should achieve to less than 12 ppm. So from 30 ppm come to 12 ppm if we want to do effluent recycle. And in Middle East again, almost outlet wastewater, also the BOD target 10 or 12 ppm. So how to design BOD from target 30 ppm come to 10 ppm. Basically, if technical person, we call it
IR Handaya, breaking up. Could you mind switching off your video? Because we can't hear you.
In Indonesia, if to get 30 ppm, we can set 0.05 until 0.1.
We seem to be losing IR Dwi Handaya. Hello, IR. You can try switching off your video and then continue with your explanation. Thank you.
Are you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Thank you.
Sorry, are you hear me?
You can.
No.
Yes. IR Dwi Handaya, perhaps you can switch off your video and then continue with the explanation.
Are you hear me? Okay, are you hear me? Are you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can
so
hear
actually,
you.
with setting the lowest ratio, we can. Okay.
Yes.
With the if we set the lowest FM ratio, so the BOD from 30 ppm, easier to come to 10 ppm in 10 ppm first. And the second thing, actually, in microorganism bacteria, there are liquid bacteria, there are attached growing bacteria, and there are also technology for, we call it pellet bacteria. We have bacteria, we call it stone bacteria. With this stone bacteria, we can have a record like BOD 1 ppm, BOD 2 ppm, actually. With this case, we also invited by government how to clean the river and lake, because current condition, river and lake only have, we call it screen filtration and maybe dredging concept. There are not another concept. So with this pellet bacteria, we can treat it soluble organic. This is our record. Here, Dr. Nayati.
Thank you. Very interesting. IR Dwi Handaya on the pellet bacteria as to how might you reduce the BOD from 600 to 2 milligram per liter in your system. And the fact that you have tested
separate record like this.
Yes, and then the fact that you have tested the system someplace else is really encouraging. Ladies and gentlemen, all speakers, perhaps I would like to invite each speaker to give your half a minute remarks on this session, like a key message or something that you would like to say to the audience. IR Taufik.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nayati. I think it's hopefully that the session will be fruitful. Then I think I like to means the idea of Dr. Zaki of the integrated waste management system. I think this is the way to go, because of the now also it means instead of doing something that call it the blaming game, we need to look into a very holistic approach actually for us to make sure that we have a very good access to the water and sanitation. Thank you.
Thank you. I couldn't agree with you more. Dr. Zaki?
Okay, I like to add to a bit more to the answer I said earlier just now. So on the pollution side, so we have to identify, we have to designate the source of the pollution. But the specific issue of the dumping to IWK, that's why I mentioned to IWK sewage line goes to IWK treatment plant. That's why just now I proposed, I mentioned earlier, right now we don't have a centralized industrial effluent treatment system. Perhaps when you have that kind of facility, a dedicated centralized facility, that will, at the very least, perhaps reduce incidences of discharges to IWK plants, because you are releasing to a centralized industrial dedicated treatment system that is ready, ready to handle shock loading at the very least. We call it shock loading. So we get industries to pay for it. And the way I look at it, there are many models to do it. Maybe one of the ways is actually kalau pandai kan. Actually, if the state government is smart, the state government can do it under the state initiative, under their own state JLC or something, and generate income for the state. Even if they're smart about it, they can do it. It doesn't need to be supported by legislation. So that's the first part. But on the bigger picture, I always say this: when it comes to water quality preservation, prevention is better than cure. And I keep saying this. Yeah, we are very concerned about rivers that are polluted right now, which is fair. You're concerned about the polluted rivers, but my question has always been, what about the clean or still not too polluted rivers that we have at the moment? I can bring you now, Dr. Yati, I can bring you now, Engineer Taufik. We go to the authorities office right now, today, sekarang we go, you can see application for discharge today. Somewhere in the country, mesti ada. So how do you make sure with this application for discharge, the river doesn't become more polluted? That's the bigger picture, the bigger question. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zaki. Prevention is indeed better than Dwi Handaya, final remarks from you for this session?
Yeah, okay. Actually, how become our environment become more clean? There are several stakeholders should attend it. There are one from government make tight regulation, and from technology, and from community. It means there is impossible if only technology without government. So there are several stakeholders should attend to make our environment more clear.
Thank you,
Yeah,
IR Dwi Handaya, and I'd like to thank all three awesome speakers today for the Access to Water and Sanitation session at Asia Water virtual event. And I would like to thank all participants who have been staying with us up until now, 1 o'clock. And then if I may just reiterate what I have gathered from the beginning of the session, I love the quote by Audrey Hepburn, simply because I'm a women moderator today. Water is life, and clean water means health. And then we move on to Dr. Zaki. I love Chilling River, and then the head of cow is obviously, something that causes huge grievances to us, the water lovers. And the important question was, how will these rivers continue to be clean, and for how long? And obviously, we have heard from IR Dwi Handaya, very interesting insights on Indonesia's sharing on what do you do with your rivers, and then what do you do with your waste, and how did you include recycle and reuse of effluent water in your water management in your country. I thank you everyone, and thank you to Asia Water for this platform, and I hand over the session back to our MC today. Thank you so much, and have a nice afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nurhayati, and thank you to all our speakers. So before we end today's session, we would like to give a big thank you for all our audience for joining in the Access to Water and Sanitation virtual conference. Do visit our 109 outstanding exhibitors on the virtual platform, and please have a look at the other seminars, such as the Indonesia and Vietnam Pocket Talks and the technical seminars. Looking forward to seeing you back again at the Asia Water virtual platform. Once again, thank you for joining and have a great day ahead.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.